Well, good evening, folks. I'm going to do this live. Spending time with my girls. My oldest is recovering from surgery. She's doing quite well, actually. I'll be taking her home tomorrow. Folks, I want to do this live. The last 3 days has been a huge answering to many things I've stated. Largely Canadians are completely ignorant. The media's relaying some of it. Some of it we're getting from the UK. We're absolutely getting it all entirely from the United States of America, not just the Trump administration. Actually, 6 offices, 3 legislative, 3 executive, with some judicial overlap in national security. But the answers are all there. Everything I've been talking about leading up to the last 3 days, and maybe sometimes it's nice to sit back. I could have put so many bullets in this title, but I'm going to get to the big one. So USA sanctioning the ICC. I've given lots of education on that, on the ICJ, the ICC. I'm talking about international courts, UN Charter that's based off the Constitution of the United States, and the earlier Russian Federation, even throughout its communism, as they still implemented many we the people equality rights and human and civil rights. That being said, the ICC, International Criminal Court, is not binding in the UN Charter. In fact, it's a creation post-World War II by the Allies of World War II, not Russia. Russia said, it's not in the Constitution of the UN, aka the Charter, or any of the organs of the UN, and we're not going to admit it because we're a UNSCP 5 power. And was Russia right? Absolutely, folks, because as of 6 p.m. yesterday, ICC publishes, and it's all UK. UK is in a world of hurt right now. Keir, Starmer, King Charles III, and of course, Mark Carney. And, unlike UK, and absolutely 6 out of 10 of the premiers of Canada, encompassing more than 82% of our population here in Canada, in their parliamentary democracy, the joke. And USA's calling it all out. They call out all the provinces, all your provincial leaders. They call out Keir Starmer, who is not in a federalism. There haven't been provinces in the UK or even regions of the UK for a very long time. They're the United Kingdom, not Great Britain with its provinces. It's now UK, United Kingdom, 5 countries inside one nation, a tiny little EU, so to speak. And they all get power because they hold control of that veto through who? King Charles III today. And Trump isn't having it, and it's not just Trump. Congress, Senate, as I said, 3 offices of the legislative branch of government, Senate and Congress, they all call out the UK. They froze that $40 billion agriculture / AI and big tech investment into Britain. That trade deal pulled back. It's all over Oxford AI programming. I've tried to teach this extensively. US isn't having it. They're not going to have any more wars on America, any more corruption of the states. They have enough trouble with all the illegal immigration, all the corruption of Webster's dictionary with Oxford terms, and in fact, violations of state constitutions that unfortunately in those states, they don't have the same independent judiciary power of the people that so many American US states have, including Democrat states. If you thought California was one of these, they're not. They're not. But New York sure is. I'm just going to leave it at that. I've went into lots about that. But USA, Democrat and Republican, united together in the United Front are calling all of this out. They've put a hold on that trade deal with UK, all on Agenda 2050, all on the idea that these companies are going to pay. USA doesn't do carbon tax or carbon pricing. In fact, USA, everybody, the results are in. Donald J. Trump's first term throughout Joe Biden's. Here's pollution in the United States and greenhouse gases. See my hand up here? Whoa, there's USA's dropping line. They did that without an ounce of carbon pricing or carbon tax. You see a couple states fall off like this, still going down. Guess what those states have? Carbon pricing. Yeah. And they're highly attached to Quebec and British Columbia. We will not get a USMCA with that in place. Now jump over to Alberta, who just quadrupled carbon pricing and is attempting as a trade barrier and has been doing this to Montana. Energy, forever and a day. North Dakota doesn't even have access through the grid through Saskatchewan, but it's going to be a problem. Now, Saskatchewan doesn't charge carbon tax, carbon pricing, and Alberta claims to go, hey, well, no, look, we allowed you more access than Saskatchewan. That's because you took North Dakota energy, and Saskatchewan doesn't run carbon pricing. But Alberta sure takes BC, and they charge all that. They charge all that on those energy providers out of province, including Montana, who has none of that in place and refuses to. It's unconstitutional in the United States. It's not bound into international law. It's Alberta's absolute trade restriction on Montana energy. If you ever want to know what that energy is, well, hint, hint, Alberta, you used to have the largest supply in North America. Yeah, I used to make incredible amounts of money, never have to work anywhere more than at tops 150 kilometers from my home. And I was employed 12 months a year. Coal. And Daniel Smith charges an incredible rate, just signed on with Mark Carney, now 4 times more. It's an absolute no-no with the United States. Mass immigration, fentanyl from Alberta to Montana and other lateral states is massive, and USA's building massive ICE facilities, massive expansions at all Alberta border crossings, manned or unmanned, that alike. When you go to Alberta side, you see one little Canadian who's shocked to see it come across a U.S. border back into Alberta. But on the U.S. side that I made sure to tour last time I went through the United States, it's the largest ICE expansion in all of U.S.-Canada border. I know, because I toured the whole thing. I toured the entire thing right across, zigzagging from north to south, going through a pile of states, coming back to check these borders. I did that. And Alberta has the most massive ICE expansion from the United States anywhere I've seen on any border, Canada, USA, and that's a massive, massive border. People don't like to hear these truths. The game Danielle Smith's playing in carbon tax, carbon pricing, as she's a devout advocate of Agenda 2050. Folks, if you're not watching the news, UK has just been shut down on a 31 billion euro, well over 40 billion US, the equivalent of about $52 billion Canadian, or the entire trade deficit the United States has with Canada. So if you think for a minute USA is going to sign into anything with Canada and Canadians are off the hook, you're out to lunch delusional. USA's playing possum with you, getting you to come along while Mark Carney pulls out the whip, the socialist, fascist, yeah, pulls out the whip, you know, Emperor of Canada. That's what he is now with Bill C-15. Not UNDRIP, This is the budget bill for nationalization of Canada, bypassing all constitutional laws, all legislation passed by Parliament or any province outside of their notwithstanding clause. But people like Daniel Smith, who are very comfortable with pushing Albertans into communist China, right? You guys are going to say to hell with the United States. Albertans are going to teach USA a lesson, right? Yeah, sure you are. Yes, it's true. There's post-Trump talking. It's not Trump, actually. It wasn't. Donald Trump has some mutterings. He was present in that. But believe it or not, it's senators, Democrat and Republican, I have both their names, who are doing the big talk about the joke of Canada's military, and they wouldn't last a week. One Republican, one Democrat. And yes, Donald J. Trump was present in that forum, but not participatory, because that's legislative branch. Unlike Canada, Canadians, USA has 3 distinct independent governing systems: legislative, executive, and judicial, all independent. Canada entirely fused in a pyramid scheme where it's prime minister. Actually, you know what? It's almost prime minister and premier's down. Daniel Smith showed the Alberta Privy Cabinet. Did you all see it? Albertans, everything I've taught you through all of Alberta independence, my transition into Canada, the 51st state, and this isn't the joke of Alberta, 51st state, or any province, because you don't have a constitution and you have no military, none whatsoever. You have no property rights. The highest law of the land before the Constitution. Alberta, you have 0. You have 0 militia or military, and you also have 0 constitution. You can't go the route of statehood, never mind the fact you're fused in a constitutional monarchy where you have a veto from UK who's using that right now, and USA's winding up right now like this, and they're smashing Keir Starmer's face in economically, but they are basically smashing him, breaking his nose, broke his cheek, and ready to knock the jaw right off his face in January. And King Charles is standing there watching, and they will get out their whips, and they'll say, pick yourself up, grab your whip, whip the UK subjects, and in turn, whip these Commonwealth dirtbag, low degenerate colony subjects, make them pay. Mark Carney, crack that whip. Crack that whip. And that is what you can all expect late in the new year, because Canada's politicians aren't working after tomorrow, and they're on their 6-week holiday starting tomorrow. If Canadians didn't know, last year, your parliamentarians sat for 73 working days. And if you think that's bad out of 365 days, where the average American legislative branch is working over 220 days a year, and Donald J. Trump is working no less than 340 days. That's how many full days he put in. 79 years old, right? And the hours are more than 12-hour days. He doesn't do less on average than 12-hour days. Think about that, 79 years old. You couldn't get the entire Alberta Privy Cabinet, who just passed radically an executive order, notwithstanding Daniel Smith and her entire Privy Cabinet, bypassing the legislation, erasing the legislative branch on the Alberta referendum procedure now. Guess what? Stupid, dumb, ignorant Albertans. That $500 referendum application is now $25,000. Danielle Smith is going to be worth $10 million before she finishes her 4 years. Before. Another Jason Kenney one-term wonder. These people rape you, especially Alberta. I mean, every province is bad. You look at the years Doug Ford put in, and he's in the umpteen dozens and dozens of millions of dollars through fraud, embezzlement, sign companies, sticker companies, no business sense in his fat mug, a drug dealer, and he's going on. Danielle Smith, who worked upwards of a lifetime to accumulate $600,000, is miraculously worth over $6.5 million. And it wouldn't be surprising to me over this referendum changes by her privy cabinet, just like Mark Carney's socialist and fascist privy council, right? Appointed legislative override. Same with Danielle Smith. They all have it. Every premier, as I've told you all, is worse than the prime minister because they have zero checks and balances. Canada has a federal constitution. None of the provinces have any. And they also carry a lion's share of the rights and legal should-be powers of the Canadian people. But you're not people. You're not real citizens. You're subjects. If you ever bother to read any of the many amendments of the Canadian Constitutional Acts, which includes all provinces and territories in the year they're created, they're called Executive Powers Act, you'll find that that constitutional document, Executive Powers Act, meaning that's the only right bestowed upon provinces and territories in Canada, is the right of the executive, notwithstanding 33, to do anything in their powers assigned. Section 92 all the way up to 152, depending on which provinces. Ontario and Quebec obviously extend all the way through there. But it doesn't really matter. These are your property rights, your human and civil rights, all education, all business corporation, all water, all resources. Wow, Canadians. Wow. And you've existed this way. But experts from Oxford said Canada's the 12th freest place in the world if you're sworn to the crown and you're first class. Oh, that's not me. That's not none of you. Folks, America's waking up. I had the great privilege of, I'm going to say this, Ivanka Trump has shared several of my posts, unpopular amongst Canadians. Nevertheless, they were shared on her 7.1 million American following platform. Oh yes. But yet, I can't even get 38 Canadians to like, love, and share that. Yet Ivanka Trump got it out there in the United States. A couple of my videos are out there, so Americans are watching intently for the four of us on the Elections Canada coming charges, investigation, done by the Canadian version of CIA, Canada Revenue Agency, RCMP, and several others to propel us into a kangaroo court of the crown, made up outside of common law or civil law. It's going to be an appointed court created, and they're going to be able to enact criminal and civil penalty upon all of us outside of any common law precedent or civil law judgments by any justice in Canadian history. So think about that. Yeah, the Americans are watching intently, especially after Doug Ford says it was okay for his election interference on such a grand scale as a Canadian politician spending $75 million. But apparently advertising my spoiled voucher ballot, meaning basically that all Canadian federal elections are fraudulent. Anybody can get a voucher ballot, whether they're Canadian or not, and vote in all of our federal elections. I can't possibly, after what I've witnessed with my own two eyes, what I did for all of you those months ago in the last election, where I got to flip through that Pierre Elliott Trudeau riding and flip through the back pages of just how many dozens and dozens, hundreds and hundreds of voucher ballots there were, handwritten in, zero ID, all of it. Yeah, I did that. And for that I'll be punished. Punished for telling Canadians the truth of massive fraudulent elections, corruptions of a massively corrupt system where democracy is parliamentary from a constitution based on the monarchy alone in a pyramid scheme. And we're all slaves. And worse, if you're a First Nation, you're savage, not human being. And you know what happens to people who are not human beings? Eventually, genocide will always rear its ugly head, as it always has in Canada. For many assignments, many peoples have been assigned that title throughout Canada's history. Nobody worse than since the start, the First Peoples, all the way through, as I'm giving this video to all of you. If Canadians don't want to believe any of it, you believe USA, they'll capitulate. Carney will get us a deal. Oh, you know what? $52 billion, nothing, right? For Keir Starmer and old King Charles III. Don't worry, he'll be whipping the living hell, I assure you, out of every Canadian. Mark Carney will be cracking that whip. And you know what? Daniel Smith will have the spiked club wrapped in barbed wire, bashing all of you in the head. And she's got an army in her Agenda 2050, an army of sheriffs, way blowing out all American politicians and all Secret Service. Never mistake the Alberta Sheriff for any kind of representation of the American Sheriff. It's called fraud. Oxford fraud. Double cross, double speak. Well, America's awoken to it. They know all about all those provinces. There's 6. I could name 2 more, but their populations are minuscule, and the rest of Canada isn't much past that 82%. Not that USA isn't going to take care of all of it, but that's the focus. And I'm telling you, Daniel Smith, Doug Ford, all of them, none of them are going to give up their divine authority. None of them. None of them. David Eby will never give up his authority. And all of these people are in different political parties. And you can look at Francois Legault, again, another party. It does not matter in Canada what political party. Crown is crown. It's like Legion, 666, many voices, one entity. It's the devil. Don't be fooled. In fact, some are even worse. That's my video. Share, share, share. I hate to hit it like that. I'm going to get back to my time with my kids, and I'll probably be taking a break from my holidays to enjoy what I have left. And I'm going to do that. And I'll only break for breaking news, critical as this video is. If you care about the truth, if you actually care about your province or country, or you really believe in narratives that you think you hold tight, well, you're going to have to start changing the way you do things. That starts with sharing videos like this, accepting real truths that America knows to be 100% correct. And they're going to be beating your heads over with a shovel, figuratively, of course. But in time, that may become literal too. Today, tomorrow, for the next few months, it may be economic. But a snap of a finger, when USA has no choice, when the Canadian people refuse, as they all are right now, to wake up in the face of horrific autocracy, so horrific that I dismissed the legislative branch. I dismissed the entire law. I did an executive order, just like Mark Carney. And Canadians go, well, it's part of our system. I got that filthy bitch, Michelle Rempel, married to a Marine in America, spends most of her year in the U.S., has to come back for the 6 months, but I don't even know if that's accurate as they're married. I don't know if she's been processed. She's probably doing way more than that, as she only worked 73 days last year. But she's on there saying, I don't have a problem, in her last video 2 hours ago. I have no problem with the Westminster system. Meaning there's a long legacy of floor crossing. That's okay. I don't think it's right, and I think we just wait for the next election for Canadians to choose and make it right. Think about that. That's your supposed conservative, married to an American, getting American citizenship if she doesn't already have it. She's married, funneling all her money to the United States, selling all of you out, telling you, yeah, you should accept the Westminster system. I love it to death. That's why I married an American, and I'm moving all my money into USD and building my lifeboat out to the United States, right? That's someone you can trust. You tell this to Calgarians, no, you don't know what you're talking about. Go watch the video. It's 2 hours old. That's a nut job. I love the Westminster system. Well, then why don't you go marry a guy in the UK? Why are you moving and marrying a guy in the United States? The Canadians love to be lied to these days, especially Albertans. It's very sad for me as a born and raised Albertan and all the work I've done. It seems like you go backwards, but it's the way it is. People get upset. I haven't lost followers, but I'm growing at a slower pace, and people are upset at the style of videos I'm giving as of late, really putting down Canadians. But it's Canadians who are going to save this, nobody else. If you sit on your hands thinking that God's going to bail out a horrific, prolific sinner, you're on glue. And I have a lot of supposed Christian people say, oh, just pray to God, God will save me. It's like the old saying goes, right? A guy gets up in the morning, gets drunk as a skunk, walks into his daughter's bedroom, rapes her incestuously. Doing this from the age of 8 to 15. Finally, things get taken care of, and he's lying on his deathbed, liver shot. Oh, Jesus, I'm sorry. Because he knows he's going to the fires of hell. Do you think God is really going to let him go? Do you think, oh yeah, the Catholics will tell you, right? All these crazy religions, church, understate, will tell you, oh yeah, they can be saved. A lifetime of sin, and only out of fear of going to hell do they now feel sorry. But at no point in all of that horrificness did they ever care or think twice about it with God. It was only until the liver's failing or judgments coming from the authorities that now, I'm sorry, God, I'm sorry. And I say this because Canadians, you participate against the Bible in this system where you have literally divine human beings ruling over you, and you subscribe to that system as though they are God. That's the only way to describe it, because your church is understate. If you think for a moment in your own beliefs, in your own books, whether it's Muslim, whether it's Judaism, whether it's Christian, and when I say that, I mean Islam, Catholic, and of course Torah and Talmud and all of that. And if you read any of that, which they all share the Old Testament, how can you state Moses and Noah and all that history of Old Testament, Moses and the Ten Commandments, How can you? How can you? And then there you are worshiping human beings on earth going, well, it's okay. It's not really true. It's kind of symbolic. It's, but it's never symbolic when they enact it. Was it symbolic when Danielle Smith arbitrarily, without any legislative assembly at all, took her executive ministry, created an executive order, and changed the legislation to suit her needs, to reduce your supposed democracy? We can't have that. If we're going to have it, I'm going to get rich. I'm going to get rich. My poor fellow Canadians. Danielle Smith, her example has been repeated provincially over and over so many times. People talk about municipal politics. I met the mayor and the two town councillors 8 years ago when the premier sent military police style sheriffs and RCMP to go lock them out of their offices, detain them, where the premier appointed a new mayor and two councillors. Small town Alberta. Why? Because he and the two councillors were going to end Agenda 2021-2030 and the precursors for Agenda 2050. Folks, we're not getting a USMCA with the United States of America. Danielle Smith's gone. Doug Ford's gone. Francois Legault's gone. David Eby's gone. These are four politicians, four different political parties, and then you got Liberal ringleader Mark Carney. Now, Scott Moe, Manitoba, Wab Kinew, they're there too. And of course, Atlantic Canada, when Mark Carney cracks that whip, they'll all be answering too. And Canadians, you're finished. You're going belly up at a rapid pace. It's all over the last 3 days of news. UK is not able to stand up to the United States. ICC judges thrown to the side via exactly what Russia said, what I know to be true, because I've read every United Nations Security Council resolution that's ever taken place since 1945. Every single one. Know them all. And USA said, sorry UK, we're not answering. In fact, now we're pausing a massive deal worth the entirety of all of Canada's sanctions and trade deficit with the United States of America today. You think that's small potatoes? Do you think USA's messing around? Do you really believe any of your Canadian politicians? If you do, you're an adult man and woman child, and I don't know what else to say. If you're a good friend and follower, you'll share this video to everybody you can. I made a video now, I guess a little over a week ago, 2 videos actually. Lock and load. Get ready for those who are awake, awakened, awoken, whatever you want to call it, whatever stage you're at. Get ready. Things are going to be getting ugly over the next 6 months, let alone the next year. Be ready. That's my video. God bless. I know.